Sonic Universe, issue 94. Opal's disappointed by what they've seen, and they wonder if someone else got here first. Blade asks what a blue orb is, and Undina says it looks broken. The captain says this can't be it, even though he was being told about some kind of weapon with untold destructive power. It's clearly describing a magical artifact. Why would he get discouraged just because it looks like an orb? Shouldn't he realize the weapon will be magical, and therefore could look like anything, especially a jewel? Instead, he tells the pirates to keep looking. He's told that it might be worth something to the right person. Blade says to the captain that there's something here less worn out than the other writing. Undina is able to read it just fine, saying that it's about a hero at rest. Then the Chaotix see the lieutenant. Vector says that they just need to get the captain's key, and Charmy interrupts him, saying that he can do that, and then immediately goes to fly away, despite Vector whispering at him not to. Although he's surprisingly smart enough to keep it a whisper, at least. When I thought he'd give himself away right there. Idiot balls are not okay! Why is Charmy being written like this? The whole arc was just humiliating him. He shouldn't have even been in the comic if he was going to be portrayed like this. It adds nothing good. The captain complains that the empty tomb has already been robbed. Then Charmy interrupts him, asking for the key to the ship, looking nervous. He says that he needs to go to the bathroom, and he's told he doesn't need the key for that. So he steals it from him now that he's got his attention. Well, at least it was impressively polite and sweet that he was like, "Aww, I tried to be nice." The Chaotix rush at them, but all we see after this is a bunch of dust. Razor gets pushed over, and Undina tells Opal not to sting and smacks her, I guess with an umbrella. I love that she's able to sting, since it takes advantage of her being a jellyfish, aside from just the looks. Opal flatters her by saying that she's stronger than she looks. It's nice of her to compliment her even after that, like they did kind of form a bond, which makes this whole betrayal kind of sad. Vector picks up and carries the princess as the lieutenant fires a laser, and they run out of the tomb. Vector says to close it, and Undina complains that if they trap the pirates there, they'll starve. Vector says they'll send the proper authorities to pick them up later. She fortunately does get to close the tomb in time, playing the mystic melody to do so out of nowhere. That thing can do anything the plot demands. Eggman could have it played to unclog his toilet, and it'd make just as much sense. It's not like the tomb is from Meropis. Blade briefly makes it unnecessarily sad by guilting Razor that they're the only family he's got, and he says that she's wrong. I don't think Razor should have been related to her at all if all it did was waste her time. Razor could have been written to get the idea to say they'll join their crew without a superfluous dark and edgy backstory where he used to be with them, just because he's a shark. The lieutenant tells the Chaotix to hurry to the car, as Dive, who's tied up, is disappointed because he made them all breakfast and thinks they owe him for just that. There's a lot left of the story, so I'm guessing that either the pirates will bullshit break out of the tomb from bullshit, or the heroes will have to deal with Eggman's army on the sea. But that'd be good writing, showing their traitorous former captain again after mentioning him so much. I didn't know Abyss was a she based on the design, so I don't care. It's not like it'll even matter to the plot. They go into the car that's low on fuel, and the lieutenant says that they still need to take control of the setting dawn, so there's no chance of them following them. I always had a feeling that there really was a dangerous weapon in that tomb, because it's a fantasy universe, so they wouldn't have the guts to make it a subversion. Then all the untold destruction stuff would just be a waste of time. So the weapon will be how the pirates will break out, right? The lieutenant tells him to get the ship moving, using the winch to pick up the car. What kind of a word is winch? It turns out that the pirates have escaped the tomb, and there's no explanation given for it right away when we clearly saw them get sealed in. This is bullshit. It was common sense that the weapon will be how they break out. Instead, I guess it's just a sequel hook for the next arc that'll never happen. Espio says that they're trying to swim after them. Then it turns out they have to enter a password to start up the ship. And it makes sense because they'd be trying to prevent this exact problem. Razor doesn't know there is a password. It's surprisingly brilliant of the captains to keep that a secret from their crew. And it's realistically revealed that they can't just hack it in the next 5 minutes. Finally, Vector thinks to ask Undina for it. Why the fuck didn't she input it in the first place? They were clearly in a hurry. What was she thinking? Instead she waited to be asked first? She of course explains that she knows the password from spending so much time here with the captain. She explains that when people don't think you're worth paying attention to, you can get away with all kinds of things right in front of them. Opal complains that all her stuff was on that ship, and she thought Dina was cool, and the kid would have made a cute mascot. Why are we being shown this melodramatic, overly sad scene with Blade angsting? It really added nothing valuable having her be related to Razor. She's just a self-absorbed, monstrous pirate. So, her personality sucks so much that I'm allowed to judge her by her appearance. The fact that she barely looks like a girl doesn't help make the character look non-amateurish. Why are we being shown a scene with them if they're not going to do anything? Aren't they going to find that weapon? So much wasted time. Why are the heroes reiterating their plan when they already know it? Undina says that she didn't have any options and was just trying to keep everything under control until help arrived. Okay, finally logic prevails, because I was really confused that Undina was being portrayed as wanting to fully comply with the Chaotix out of nowhere. She says that she's not going home. Her parents didn't even want to let her go to the surface for school to begin with. She'd never be allowed to leave home again if she came back. She's still the princess, their only heir who has an obligation to run the kingdom. But I'm not sure I'd trust her to do that anyways. She's good at translating stuff and had a smart plan earlier, but one skill doesn't make you a great leader. She's nice, so that's a very good thing to have for a leader, for once. But she hasn't shown that she's amazing at running a country. She's a free spirit, so she would be happier experiencing the world firsthand. She fortunately has a legitimate career idea here, which she didn't have to write. She wants to become the ambassador to Meropis. And until then, she's going to keep traveling with her very own ship. And she'd be a bit of a better ambassador if she traveled the world, because then she'd get to know the country she'd be talking to. Then she says that it might put some minds at ease if the lieutenant was her bodyguard on her travels. Then she bows and thanks Razor for going through all this trouble for her sake. I'm glad she's not going to intentionally kidnap the Chaotix just because she's controlling the ship and doesn't want to go home. But the Chaotix are still owed some money for all this. It'd be needlessly cruel of the writers not to give them any kind of reward. Why do they have to be poor? Seriously. It doesn't make any sense. And if they're good people, they'd want to keep being detectives anyways, so it wouldn't change the status quo. Especially if they're bad with money, which I wouldn't put past Charming Vector. So they go back to being poor anyways. Though considering how smart Vector was in this arc, maybe he'd put at least some of it in a trust fund. Undina tells Razor to give Coral her best wishes. 3 original characters in 1 sentence. Wow, this arc really was original character of the arc. Again. If this was a fanfiction, I wouldn't have given it a chance. It's lucky it has nice art to look at. Undina tells Vector that since she's been found, she's sure that her parents will reward him handsomely. I'm guessing that won't be true, and they shouldn't assume it will be because her parents want her back. So, they're not doing their job right. She should promise them money, which she would get herself just fine. Honey the cat, anyone? Then we see Razor get hugged by his not little sister. And she says that the queen said the princess called her and she told her what happened and told them. He's told that his friends were worried, and Coral hugs him. He says it's good to be home, and since this is the last time we'll ever see him, and this was an arc dedicated to him, this would have been the perfect time for him to ask her to date him. But that'd be basic, obvious good writing. The story ends with the most mean-spirited writer in Sonic history being mean-spirited again. Go figure. Because the reward for the Chaotix is basically nothing for telling them that the princess is okay. Cunts. This issue is by Ian Flynn. And that was not a good ending to put me in the right mood about the story. At least they got away from the pirates without them having a super weapon. And Undina got to take their ship and travel the world like she wanted. So everyone's happy except the Chaotix because Flynn hates them. It couldn't even end with Coral and Razor dating because even that writing would be too good for Flynn. And I don't even like either character that much. I just wanted one ongoing plot thread resolved. Charmy got the key, and Undina knew the password for the ship. Sure was a lot of dialogue and pages for a plot as basic as that. Seriously, that's all that happened. It was exciting and tense to see them escape from the pirates, but there was no excuse for them escaping the tomb they were sealed into, if they weren't gonna do it by blasting out there with a magical orb. Why did the Chaotix have to get worthless money as a reward? It could have made sense if they did get a lot of money, and then Vector and Espio invested in the wrong stocks and lost it at the stock market. That still pissed me off, but they could at least have some kind of reward.